There is 20 years of evidence in the Department of Justice files of crimes committed against multiple victims by multiple perpetrators. There is a half dozen named co-conspirators that were never indicted or convicted of crimes. And just because they were not convicted, no, hold on. Just because they were not convicted does not mean they did not commit crimes. So your statement is actually false.
Okay, hold on. First of all, you try to correct me, I'm going to correct you. They weren't indicted. There was multiple DOJs that decided not to indict or even bring a grand jury against them. Those DOJs were both Republican and Democrat. So you're telling me that there are multiple people who there is evidence to indict, which means the prosecutor must believe they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and somehow these people are so important and so powerful that both Republican and Democrat DOJs decided not to.
Yes. In fact, if you read the files, it's very clear that dating back to 2006 and 7, when the Department
why didn't Pam Bondi do it?
Let me finish here. In 2006 and 7, there was an indictment memo drafted that had dozens of recommended indictments against Jeffrey Epstein, and Alex Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney at the time, chose to kill the case against the line attorney at the time.
Against Jeffrey Epstein. You're completely conflating things. Ma'am, you can't come on here and just say wild stuff.
This exchange between Representative Melanie Stansbury and NewsNation host Leland Vitter is exactly what happens when the media is more concerned with, well, putting on a show than actually having a serious discussion. Now, keep watching this.
You said if a prince can be held accountable, so can a president. I'll ask you the question again. You said that right after Prince Andrew was arrested and charged with a crime. That's what accountability means to you. What crime should Donald Trump be charged with?
Well, Donald Trump was investigated by the FBI for abuse of a minor, and there are multiple statements from witnesses that the FBI took as tips and they investigated as allegations. Those, as far as we know, were never taken fully to the fullest extent of their investigation.
Okay, hold on. First of all,
we need to be asking important questions about
but you
what
know, ma'am,
happened.
That's not what you said, though. That's not what you said. You said he should be held accountable in the way he should be arrested. No, ma'am.
I didn't come on your program
I came on to get answers, and you're not answering the question.
You're not answering the question. To present the facts to the American public, which is the files are there. There are 3 million files available for the public to view themselves. I don't have to argue with you on the air. Just go read the files, my friend.
You're telling me that Merrick Garland and the Biden DOJ that made up crimes to charge Donald Trump with had files that show he should be indicted as a pedophile and they didn't do it? Come on.
I did not make that statement. What I have
That's what you're saying.
I know. What I have stated is that the FBI investigated credible tips against the President of the United States. And if you have not viewed those documents yourself, I encourage you to do so.
Okay. And obviously, multiple DOJs, including Democratic DOJs, decided that there was not evidence to indict him. You have said in your tweet...
Can I ask you, have you read the tip sheets yourself? Because I've read them, and I read the unredacted version.
I have read many of them.
Did you read the FBI files and the tip sheets in which multiple witnesses provided evidence?
You're not allowed to come on here and slander people. What should Donald Trump be charged with? And I don't think you're willing to say anything because you realize if you say something like that, you can be sued for libel and slander, and you're not willing to say it.
Sir, I'm not a law enforcement agent. I am a member of the Oversight Committee, which is conducting oversight over the largest cover-up in American history and the miscarriage of justice.
So should Merrick Garland be indicted?
Justice's prosecution of these crimes, and I'm reporting to you and to the American public what the FBI and DOJ files say.
While Vitter is stuck on arguing about the semantics of that single tweet from Stansbury in a sad attempt at a gotcha moment, Stansbury's central point flies right over his head, which was echoed by journalist Julie K. Brown, a hero, Miami Herald journalist responsible for reopening the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and one of the main figures in orchestrating his eventual downfall. And when Julie K. Brown speaks on this subject, you need to listen. This is the woman whose investigative reporting provided the breadcrumbs law enforcement needed to finally arrest Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell for child sex trafficking. She won the George Polk Award. She was named one of Time's 100 most influential people. She is not a pundit. She is a journalist, and she did what an entire federal agency failed to do for years. After watching that interview, she took to X and posted a thread that I think every person in media and every person watching this needs to read. Her first post: "This is why I won't go on NewsNation, ever. He is scoffing and smirking and won't even let her finish a sentence. So misogynistic, unprofessional. Let her speak, dude." Let that land. The woman who broke the Epstein case wide open is telling you she will not set foot on that network, not because of a political disagreement, because of how they treat women on air. That is a professional verdict from someone who knows what serious journalism looks like and what a performance looks like, too. And she's telling you that was a performance. Then Brown continued. She wrote, his listeners would have benefited from what she was trying to explain. She agreed that it should have been investigated by prior administrations. She started at the beginning. The first failure was in 2006, 2007, when the feds had a draft indictment against Epstein based on 40 underage girls. It was scrapped. You hear that? 40 underage girls? The federal government had a draft indictment and they just scrapped it. And that is what Stansbury was trying to explain on that show before Vitter kept cutting her off. Brown, the expert, is telling you that the Congresswoman was doing exactly what a lawmaker should do, walking the public through the timeline of failures. But Vitter didn't want a timeline. No, he wanted a clip. Then Brown goes even further. She wrote, the reason this is so important, if they had prosecuted him then, we not only wouldn't be talking about it now, but hundreds of victims would have been spared. Hundreds of victims. That is the cost of the system protecting powerful men. And Brown doesn't stop there. She points out Pam Bondi, the current Attorney General of the United States, was Florida's Attorney General back then, in the years after that plea deal, when even more victims were coming forward, including Virginia Giuffre in 2011. Brown says Bondi absolutely had the power to investigate the case as it grew into a larger and larger crime against, her word, children. Now think about that. The woman who is now the top law enforcement officer in this country had the power to go after Epstein when she was Florida's Attorney General, and she didn't. And that is a fact that Vitter never bothered to explore because he was too busy trying to score points on a tweet. This was never a political story. It is a story about crimes against women and children. But Vitter made it political. He turned an interview about the Epstein files into a partisan trap. And in doing so, he did exactly what the powerful people in those files want. He made the conversation about politics instead of about accountability. And Julie K. Brown, the journalist who knows this story better than anyone on earth, saw right through it. And so should we.
Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez is hitting back, responding to a new report of an alleged affair with a staffer who died in September after setting herself on fire. That staffer, Regina Santos Avilas, worked for Gonzalez for close to 4 years before her death. And now the San Antonio Express News reporting on allegations she was having an affair with the congressman. In November, Gonzalez denied the two had an inappropriate relationship.
But the rumors are completely untruthful. I don't know exactly what happened. No one's contacted me. I haven't contacted anyone.
According to attorney Bobby Barrera, who represents Santos Avilas' husband, his client believes Santos Avilas was having an affair, which is why they were estranged, and the couple was living apart at the time of her suicide. Barrera did not say what his client's beliefs of an affair were based on. I am not going to engage in these personal smears, and instead will remain focused on helping President Trump secure the border and improve the lives of all Texans.
What is happening right now with Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez of Texas? Well, it's one of the most disturbing stories in Washington. Says a lot, doesn't it? And it's not getting the wall-to-wall coverage it deserves. Here are the facts. Regina Ann Santos Avilas, 35 years old, a congressional staffer in Gonzalez's office. She was a wife. She was a mother of a young child. And in September of 2025, she died in a horrifying way. She covered herself in gasoline outside her home in Uvalde. and she set herself on fire. According to reporting from the San Antonio Express News and 24 Site News, Santos Avalos had been having an alleged affair with Gonzalez, her boss, a sitting United States congressman and a married father of 6. Former staffers say that relationship was an open secret in the office. Her husband's attorney, Bobby Barrera, told reporters it was, quote, common knowledge among the staff. Gets worse. Newly obtained text messages pulled from a forensic extraction of Santos Avalos' phone. They show that Gonzalez sent her explicit sexual requests, asking for photos, asking about sexual preferences late at night, around midnight. And the text showed she repeatedly pushed back. She deflected. She told him she didn't want to take pictures. At one point, she wrote, "This is going too far, boss." She even asked him whether he hired her because of her appearance. When he pressed further with another explicit request, she responded with one word, never. This is a woman who was being pressured by her employer, a man with enormous power over her career, her livelihood, her standing, and she was trying to draw a line. He kept pushing. Former staffer told reporters that after her husband discovered the affair and exposed it to Gonzalez's staff, the congressman began icing her out, canceling her meetings, pulling her off key assignments. She went from being the top employee in the office to, quote, nothing. She went on antidepressants. She started missing work. Her attorney told CBS News she had no documented history of mental health struggles before the alleged relationship began. Former staffer also told 24 Site News that Santos Avalos confided that Gonzalez came on to her first, that he used his power and position to elevate her, selecting her community projects for federal funding, putting her on a pedestal, and then got something out of it. The staffer said, quote, he definitely used his power and his position in the office to coerce her. And what did Gonzalez do? Denied it all. He called the allegations, quote, completely untruthful. He called them political smears by his primary opponent. This is a man whose forensic text messages stacking up against him. His response is, let's play the victim. But the husband, Adrian Avalos, is not having it. He responded to Gonzalez saying, this isn't a coordinated political attack. This is exposing the real Tony Gonzalez. This is a tragedy you helped create, and you refuse to own it. He said his 8-year-old son will grow up knowing what a real man of honor looks like, and he called on the president to pull his endorsement. So how's the Republican leadership handling this? Let's go to Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House. When he was asked about it, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, we have to let the investigations play out. He compared it to the George Santos situation. He said he was against the expulsion of Santos because, well, he had been accused but not yet found guilty. And he said if accusations alone were the litmus test, a lot of people would have to resign or be expelled. A woman is dead. Forensic text messages show a sitting congressman making explicit sexual requests to a subordinate who tried to say no, and the Speaker of the House is telling us to be patient, to let the system work. That's not intellectual consistency. That is calculated inaction. That is a man protecting a political asset because his party has a razor-thin majority in the House and cannot afford to lose a single seat. Now, credit where credit is due. Republican Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna came out strong. She said the entire Texas delegation and every single member of Congress should be condemning a sitting member for asking for explicit photos of their staff. She said, as a woman, it is really disgusting. She said it brings dishonor on the House. And she said something critical. This is not the only case of this kind of behavior in Congress. She tagged Gonzalez directly and said, shame on you. The post got over 750,000 views, 18,000 likes. Lauren Boebert, too. She kept it simple. Resign. So on the one hand, you have Republican women saying enough is enough. On the other, you have the male leadership, the Speaker of the House, telling everyone to calm down. Just wait. Right there. That's the thread that ties this entire show together, from Leland Vitter scoffing, smirking at a congresswoman trying to talk about the Epstein files, to Julie K. Brown, journalist who broke that case wide open, calling it misogynistic and telling you the real story is a crime against women and children that keeps getting turned into a political football, to a sitting congressman who allegedly pressured his staffer for explicit photos and then left her to spiral when it all fell apart, to the male leadership that cannot bring itself to simply say this is wrong. The pattern is not subtle. The hypocrisy is the right call here. Calling it out. Family values, protecting women, morality. When the moment comes to actual stand up for women being exploited, it's time to hedge. Woman is dead, her name, Regina Ann Santos Avalos, a mother, someone's daughter, and her story deserves more than a political calculation about seat margins. Her story demands accountability. Not next month, not after the primary, right now.